Good morning, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning into today's post show. I don't know where you are, but here in Michigan, it's a beautiful, beautiful sunny May day. I love the sun. It's been great. I enjoyed it outside yesterday, too. I know a lot of people probably thought that was hot, but where I'm from, I loved it. It was great.
After the winter we've had, sure. No, I'll take days like that all day long.
I mean, to be fair, this past winter wasn't that bad.
It wasn't bad at all, but it was
bad.
still enough to where I was like, I'm ready for it to be warmer.
My name is Josh. I'm one of the pastors here on staff, and I'm joined by three amazing people. Matt, who shreds any guitar you'll put into his hands.
Oh, boy.
Andy, who knows literally everything about movies. I feel like if you ask him about a random movie, there's a really good chance he's seen it.
Probably.
And then Austin, who knows everything about baseball. we were sitting
guitars.
Here, and guitars. We were sitting here before it started while Perry was doing his wrap up, and we were like, let's just talk about financial plans in baseball. And Austin was like, well, if we're talking about that, we can just spend what's the you quoted? What exactly did you say?
Oh,
about?
we would have to spend a whole lot of different times, different aspects, whether major leagues, minor leagues. There's a whole bunch of different aspects that we can talk about, but I don't think that's what we're here for.
Yeah, that's not what we're here for.
But
we can sit here talking about
asking him like, what is the average salary cap for a minor league player? And he knew.
Yeah, he knew. Yep, he knew. So, yeah, Austin knows all about baseball, including the financial side of baseball. So, but yeah, we're going to dive into breaking down the first message of our new series, pretty much talking about finances and how to honor God with our finances. So the first question, as always, what stood out to you in today's message? Let me pull out my notes.
I'll go as somebody who's visual. I'm a very visual learner. The pool analogy was really good. I've heard that stuff explained a lot of different ways, and that's a very easy that everybody can look at and go, yeah, the smallest pool fills up first, and that's where so on and so forth. So I really liked the analogy. Plus, it made me want to go swimming. So
yeah,
but you can't beat
Today's
that.
a swimming day. If I could find a pool and some time.
Well, there's some rivers and lakes.
There's fish in those.
I've had enough of those when I was a kid. I'm good.
What about you, Austin?
Yeah, I think the whole aspect of connecting finances, particularly to a lot of different verses of insight in Proverbs. There's a lot of wisdom that can be found in the book of Proverbs, and we can apply that even to all different aspects of life, including finances, which often can be something where we can overlook, often can be something where how is that related to God? Can that be God honoring? There are ways that we can make that God honoring. There are ways that practical advice that God gives us through the book of Proverbs that can be applied to life. And so that is something that connecting that with the aspect of creating financial plans, being responsible, was something that really stood out.
Yeah, for sure. Matt, you got anything?
Yeah. Financial messages are always difficult for me because finances are never something I've been good at. I'm very ADHD. I have depression, anxiety, which all lead to impulsive buying all the time, which isn't conducive to having, good finances. Especially my career choice doesn't help out too, because I do need gear to record music, and I actually kind of need a lot of it, especially for taking on clients and stuff. And it's all very expensive, and it makes it really difficult to get yourself all set up and off the ground. So, as a whole, it's always challenging to hear financial messages for me.
Yeah. For me, I think what stood out the most, and this is actually something that we can apply in our lives even outside of our financial area, is the second point or step that he gave was to build a financial vision. And he was talking about the lottery, at least in first service he was. He was talking about the lottery and how we fantasize when the lottery is like $500 million. It's like, oh, shoot, what would I do with $500 million and stuff like that? And Pastor Dave was talking about, well, instead of fantasizing what you want your finances to look like, start building a vision and dedicate that vision to God. And we can apply that within our finances, but we can also take that outside of our finances and apply that within our lives, within our jobs, within how we serve God, with how we love others, with how we raise our kids, with how we go to school, all of those types of things. So I think it was really cool that even in the midst of a financial message, there are things that we can take and apply to our lives day to day. So that is the big thing that stood out to me in this message. I really enjoyed the financial series. Actually, the part of the book that I'm reading called Think Ahead by Craig Rochelle just went through an entire thing about finances. And I don't know why. It's just something I've always really enjoyed talking about. So let's move on. How can we assess where we are financially? So how can we look at our day-to-day life, our day-to-day spending, and how can we figure out where we are financially?
I think it starts by one, taking a step back and actually looking to see how you are using the resources that God has given you. Yeah. Where are you putting a lot of your money, and to what extent are you doing it? I think you have to take an honest evaluation just to assess where everything is. I think that applies to a lot of different aspects, as you were stating right there, seeing where you are, and then making some sort of evaluations and decisions for there. How does that line up best with a lot of visions that you have going forward? Are you going to be able to achieve the goals that you want to under the current state that you're at? Yeah. I think it starts first with an inward, honest conversation, an honest evaluation, knowing where things sit.
Yeah,
which is finances are really wonderful in that part because you can actually put a number to it. Mm-hmm. Like if you're trying to assess like your health or something, sometimes it's not as easy unless you got Dave's ring.
If you got Dave's whole process,
Dave's ring, Dave's scale, Dave's this, Dave's that. It's like, sheesh, man.
Dave's got all the toys for that, but you can
like go over and mess it all up a little bit, like throw off the metrics.
You know how the Bible Dave talks about how God knows all the hairs on our head. Yeah. Dave also knows all the hairs on his head. Only person ever. He knows exactly how many he's got.
That. Yeah, we should go over change all of this.
Well, Josh, as you get older, you start to count those hairs in your head more and more.
They start falling out.
I'm like, oh no.
But yeah, it's wonderful because there's actually numbers for it, and you can see, you can type everything in on a spreadsheet, and you can see where you're at.
Yeah.
Just from a number standpoint, and if you're hitting your goals and such. Like that.
Yeah.
My joking answer would be, I go ask Angie. But
Angie's his wife.
Angie's my wife. But in reality, like you were saying and what you were saying, it's actually nice that you can point to, you can look at all of your monthly bills. You can look at where your savings are. You can look at where you're giving, and you can take what you're bringing in and making sure. So it's being honest and taking the time to do it, because life can get busy, and the last thing we want to do is really take a step back and then possibly be upset at ourselves that I spend too much on coffee or snacks or comic books and movies, stuff like that. So you have to really take your own shields down and be like, all right, we're going to really go into this and make sure that we're using these gifts that God has given us correctly.
Right. I think for me, whenever I actually took the step back to view my finances, my parents, they're separated. And the main reason that they got separated was finances. My dad had a really good job. They were trying to move him to Texas. He didn't want to move to Texas, so he stayed at the location in Myrtle Beach. And then 2008 happened, and it messed up everything financially, which my parents ended up getting separated over. So my mom was very intentional about teaching me about finances. Like, I would get my birthday money, and she'd be like, we're saving this much, we're tithing this much. So I had these things instilled and hammered into me for years. And I remember when I was in high school, I had just started working, and I was kind of tithing, I was kind of giving, but I was just going with the flow. And I took a step back and looked at the people that were older than me, like my youth leaders, and seeing how they manage their finances, and asking a lot of questions, like, how do you get to a place, I know you don't make a whole lot of money, but how do you live with such a generous heart and such a happy place? Because what I had seen growing up was financial stress all the time. So because I didn't want what my mom and dad went through, I took a step back to look at my finances compared to other people that I knew had really good financial state, even though they weren't making boatloads of money. Yep. And I was able to take those principles and apply them into my life. So I think we can take a step back and look at the numbers like you were sharing, but then also go, I want to be like that person who I know is living in the full freedom of not having to worry about financial stress all the time. Yeah. So I think when we do that, that's a huge step in the right direction.
And it is, I mean, I was always brought up being told, don't talk about money, but it's okay, if you have people you trust to sit down and have a conversation, or if you really need help forming a budget or something, you can ask. That's okay.
Yes. There are always people that want to help and be there for you for that. Absolutely.
Yep.
So speaking of finances, financial plans, counting the money, why do you think that God wants us to have a financial plan?
It's unfortunately necessary to live, and he wants us to live happy lives. Happy, but
the best life you can lead.
The best life we can, and unfortunately, it's a necessary thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's a necessary thing. I also think God has given us a gift and a lot of responsibilities that we have in our lives, people that we were responsible to, things and causes that God has placed in our lives. And I think with a financial plan, I think that creates a tool, creates a way for us to be able to effectively use the resources that God has given to us in a way that allows us to take care of families, take care of people that we care about, while also being able to, as Dave was stating, as we are called to do, advance the mission, go out and spread the gospel, go out and be a blessing towards people. It's really kind of hard to be a blessing towards people if you are all consumed about different desires, different things that perhaps I want. This looks cool. I'm just going to go ahead and get it. Having a lot of those impulsive decisions, I think we all know as human beings, sometimes our impulsive decisions are not great.
Yeah.
And so having a financial plan, having a thing that we're able to turn to and try to help us constrain ourselves, I think is really good, a good tool, and also something that can also be, as a lot of these different aspects apply to many different areas of life.
Right. For sure. Absolutely.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. I mean, God wants us to have a plan because, number one, having a plan works. It's been proven over and over again. And like Dave was saying, you don't just raise your kids by, we always trust God, of course, but we don't just turn it over to him, because God does not say, turn everything over to me and you don't have to do anything. No, you still have to put forth the effort and the work. And plans take work. Plans are not always fun. Some people love to plan. I'm glad my wife loves to plan. I hate planning. I'm like, let's just go and we'll figure it out. She goes, but what are we going to do when we get there? I don't know. Where she wants to know. But guess what? You need both, because if I just go, we probably won't do anything, because I haven't planned accordingly, haven't saved, haven't done this, so nothing's ready. And so there's it like you said, having a financial plan not only allows us to steward God's gifts that he's given us, because everything we have is his, not ours. Yeah. And it's so easy for humans to go, I made this money. No, God allowed you and gave you those gifts. You should be using them how his word and how he tells us to use them. And guess what? When you do that, that freedom happens. You also get to still have the fun stuff that you like, but you're not driven by the fun stuff you like. And that's where it's easy to fall victim to every time for me, where I'm like, oh, I need this. I need that. I need this. I need that. No, you don't.
Yeah, I think a better way that I could have worded this question whenever I talked about it is the book that I'm reading. It talks about how everybody has a financial plan, just some people don't know it.
That's good.
Like the people that are just spending money, they're not paying attention to what's coming in, what's going out, what they're saving, what they're giving, all that kind of stuff. They have a financial plan. Their financial plan is just use my money how I want to use it. Yeah. And like one of the things that Dave was talking about, like even though you might not be a planning person, I'm not necessarily a planning person for most things, but we're making so many decisions during the day that we're actually creating plans within our heads without even knowing it. It's like when we get here to church, we park our car. I'm going to go and walk through the front doors. That's your plan. That's what you're planning on doing. And we honor God with it whenever we intentionally take that plan and go, I'm going to break down this. I'm going to make sure, here's my $1,000 paycheck. Here's the 10% that I'm first giving to God, the 100, all of that. Just keep breaking down those things. That's what honors God whenever we're taking in what he has given us. And stewarding it well and giving it back to him, to his kingdom, and to the things that he calls us to do to honor him. Absolutely. Our last question, and I think this will be a really interesting one. Andy, I know for you, you've lived a lot of life. You've probably made a lot of financial plans. You work in the insurance industry. What are some examples that we can have in our day-to-day lives of financial goals? Like maybe it's a goal that you currently have set. Maybe it's goals that you've seen other people have set that you would just love to be able to do within your finances, or that we can encourage people listening. Some good financial goals.
I mean, I have one that I'm currently working on. For the first time ever, I have an emergency fund.
Think of that.
I'm not great with finances, but I am trying.
And trying is more important than just saying I'm not good at it, so I'm not going to do anything.
And here's the thing: I want to drop it real fast. when Pastor Dave is up there talking, like, I know when we hear these types of messages, it can be like, oh my gosh, I gotta get my entire life and finances in order right now. That is not at all what he's trying to communicate, what we're trying to communicate. We just want to help you start the process and start taking these steps and start applying these things within your life. It's not going to be Rome was built in a day. It's gonna take some time. So anyways, you can keep going.
Yeah. So, like right now, it's in a spot where, like, if anything happened to my car, I could probably get it fixed. But I want it to be in a spot where if my car is totaled, and like I can get a new car, like I don't
And not have to worry
not
about
have
that.
to
Yep.
be in complete ruin.
Yeah.
You know. So I would like to double my emergency fund.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's a great goal.
Yeah, that is a really good goal. It's almost been a year ago now that I actually started my position, graduated from grad school about this time last year, then got a position as a biostatistician, which I'm really enjoying. And what I've been doing...
I'm glad somebody does.
I know.
I'm sorry, because I hear that, I'm like, oh no, Andy would not do good with that. I am not a
can't
numbers
think of
guy.
a more fun job than a biostatistician. No, so it's been a lot of time, and especially a couple months ago when I really took that step evaluation and tried to place an emphasis instead of just throwing it into a generic savings. How do I effectively want to utilize all of these resources so then I can help build a good baseline retirement, emergency savings? How can I help, especially in the future and especially during tough times, especially for trying to get into housing situation in the future? How can I best use these resources to help save, to help create a baseline for hopefully a family down the line or for myself going forward? So it's been a lot of creating different baselines and also putting a lot of resources and staying consistent with this budget, even though there's certain things that I want to do. I set some of those stuff aside and budget stuff out, go to a lot of baseball games, but I also am not doing it recklessly and have a plan for that. And I'm able to, while doing that, saving for housings and for a car and for insurance and for all these different aspects.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Okay.
Well,
You guys gotta get going?
Austin and Matt, thank you guys for answering that question.
Not a problem.
You guys have to watch later to find what my financial goal
Yeah,
is.
you have to go watch.
I'm purposely going to wait till you leave to get my answer.
Oh, okay.
Have fun going to play some instruments. We appreciate all that you do.
Awesome.
Yeah,
Thanks,
it was
guys.
fun being on.
See you guys.
All right.
And then there were two.
Now that we got rid of the excess weight. You know what? As I get a little bit older, and as I continue to work, I see my kids getting ready to leave.
Mm-hmm.
So some of my goals are, how can Angie and I be financially stable to help them too as they move out? Because I know when we first got married, my folks were helpful, Angie's folks were helpful. So that's one of the main things I like to look forward to. But number two is I want to make sure that when Angie and I are ready to stop working, we are able to. So she has certain things that she does at work and certain things you can track, and and we can always, she'll send me a text. She goes, "It's in the green." Green means good, thankfully. So it's one of those things. So we're a lot more thoughtful about that type of stuff. So it's basically setting up a post kids' life in the house, and how can we most utilize what we have while having fun, but still not going overboard,
Right.
and just going, hey, the kids are gone, we have all this extra money. Like, no, we're going to continue to live like we do now, so that way that money goes and I can do more with it in terms of when something comes up, we can help people out in the church, or even people that we know, friends, family, stuff that happens. So that's kind of where I'm thinking and leaning towards some financial goals. And when there's Comic-Cons and stuff like that, to have fun too.
Yeah,
Because
for sure.
Yeah.
Absolutely. My wife and I, at the start of every single year, we set goals for our finances, and we typically, we always have this is how much we want to save. And so I think this year we're wanting to try to save a little over $10,000 into our bank account. Another one that we do is we are big time givers. I believe that is very important. God has blessed us with this. He has shown us a generosity gospel, and that is to give to people.
Yep.
So I we try to give, and each year we up that percentage. So I think like right this year's like 13% of everything that comes in, at least 13% we want to go out and give. And our big goal, the one that we're pursuing, I know it's probably going to be a few years down the line, like we're about to have kids, but my heart so desires to live in a place like when I buy a car, instead of taking the car that I had and trading it in to help buy the car, I want to give that car to somebody who's in need of a car. Yep. So like I want to live in that place where whenever I buy a fridge, buy an appliance, buy whatever, I can take the one that I had and I can give it to somebody who needs it. And like that for me would be just the ultimate like financial goal if I was able to do that. So, but yeah, we have a savings goal, a giving goal, a retirement goal, all those types of things, house funds, because we're trying to do all that. So, but yeah, we set a bunch of different goals. At the end of the year, we have our 5 or 6, and we look at them and we go, check, 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 X. We got to improve so that we can set our goals for the next year. So we would love to hear everybody in the comments. We would love to hear some of your financial goals. Sometimes when we share some of the goals that we have set, other people can see and go, oh, I've never thought about that. Or, hey, I want to try to pursue that too. Yeah. So I'm super excited to see where this series goes over the next couple of weeks. As always, if you have any questions at all about today's message or about anything you come across in the Bible, you can go to my3c.org to the Submit a Question tab. On Wednesdays at 7 p.m., myself and Pastor Dave, we sit down and we answer and go through those questions. Our goal is to one day get to every single question that has been asked, but we have like over 100 in our bank. So it's a great thing. So we are just going to answer the questions when we can, and hopefully we will get to your question. Now, if you're like submitting a question, you're wanting an answer within 24 to 48 hours. On that Submit a Question tab, there's a little link that you can click. It takes you to our Connect card. And on our Connect card, you can put the question in there, a little bit of information, and somebody on staff will get back to you in 24 to 48 hours. One more big shout out to our 2024 graduates. We're all very proud of you here at Connections. We'll be continually praying for you to have the endurance to continue running the race that God has given you. Everybody that's tuning in, thank you so much for joining us today. We hope to see you either Wednesday night at our Q&A or next Sunday at one of our services. Have a great rest of your day. Hopefully you're going to get to enjoy some sunshine. See you guys later.